Are you wondering why the fire has suddenly dimmed or why a chill has gripped your heart? Wrap your cloaks tight, travelers, because tonight our fire flickers low for those wretched beings that hope and light have never once touched. For years, we were told they were merely dark ghosts that knocked Harry Potter unconscious on a train or stood guard at the gates of Azkaban. But they are neither ghosts nor mere monsters. They are the systemic corruption of the wizarding world, the physical manifestation of pure pain and decay. Today, we delve into the bottomless darkness beneath those black cloaks. We explore how they came to exist on a cursed island in the middle of the North Sea, the horrifying deal struck by the Ministry of Magic, and the soul-shattering void they leave behind when they feed. Dementors. How were they born? How do they live? And can they ever truly die? We are opening the darkest pages of wizarding history. Hold your breath, for today we talk of the creatures that seek to steal it from you. The history of Dementors begins with Azkaban, but Azkaban was not a prison from the start. In the 15th century, in the freezing waters of the North Sea, there was an island that appeared on no wizarding map. On this island lived a sadistic wizard named Ekrizdis, who had long since transcended the boundaries of madness and dabbled in the foulest types of dark arts. Ekrizdis built a massive, pitch-black fortress on his island for his own twisted amusement. He used magic to lure passing Muggle sailors to his shores and subjected them 2 years of unimaginable torture. The screams of those sailors were so profound that the very soil of the island was washed in blood, and its walls were soaked in pure agony. When Ekrizdis died, the dark charms concealing the island vanished. When the Ministry of Magic discovered it, the officials who visited refused to speak of the bone-chilling sight they witnessed. But what they found was not just corpses. The pure despair, pain, and rot embedded in those walls had transformed, much like foul fungus propagating in a dark, damp cave. Dementors were not created. They were birthed by the immense suffering of Ekrizdis's victims. That island was hell on earth, and the Dementors were the indigenous people of that hell. The Ministry wanted to destroy these beings, but they couldn't, in magic history. They are known as immortal, the never-born. Since they were never born, you cannot kill them with an Avada Kedavra or cut them down with a sword. They are not part of nature. They are a sickness of emotional decay. They were terrified to destroy the island and set them free. By 1718, the Minister for Magic was a ruthless man named Damocles Roll. Instead of finding a way to destroy these vile creatures, Roll made the darkest decision in wizarding history. This shall be our new prison. Roll's logic was sick but simple. If you provide Dementors with a steady supply of human souls and despair, they wouldn't leave the island. They wouldn't have to pay guards. They offered the prisoners to these creatures as food, the Dementors fed by draining the prisoners' worst memories, while the inmates died in those cells, driven to absolute insanity. For years, the Ministry used this island under the guise of security. In reality, they were simply sacrificing their own citizens to feed the monsters. The pure-blood bigots turned a blind eye to this brutality, claiming they were criminals anyway. Dementors were not employees of the Ministry. They were the Ministry's accomplices. How do these beings function? They have no eyes. They perceive the presence of others by smelling their emotions, their happiness, and their hope. Muggles cannot see them, but they feel them. The air turns to ice, everything freezes. And that internal sensation, I will never be happy again, seizes the mind in seconds. They do not reproduce biologically. They breed like mold in the mist, intensifying in places where human despair, great depressions, and wars reach their peak. But their greatest horror lies in the only physical organ they hide beneath that hood, a rotting, shapeless mouth. The Dementor's kiss. This is not an execution method. The ministry does not kill people. This is far more cruel. The Dementor clamps onto its victim's face and literally tears the soul out through their throat. The victim does not die. Their heart continues to beat. But nothing remains. Memories, consciousness, personality. All erased. The victim becomes an empty shell, a living corpse. And that soul is trapped forever in the belly of that dark entity. This is the absolute end in the wizarding world. The ministry thought that as long as they fed them souls, the Dementors would remain loyal. Cis was pure colopidity, because Dementors are loyal to no laws or rules, only to their hunger. When Voldemort returned, he offered them something the ministry could not: join me. And I will allow you to hunt not just those in prison, but the whole world, anyone you wish. Of course, the Dementors accepted. They abandoned Azkaban, set the Death Eaters free, and descended upon England like a black fog. They attacked Muggles and terrorized the streets. They were Voldemort's greatest weapons in the Battle of Hogwarts. When hundreds of Dementors assaulted the castle, they sought to drain the happiness of thousands of students in a single night. That was until that massive army of Patronuses drove them back. When the war ended, the wizarding world faced its greatest error. The new Minister for Magic, Kingsley Shacklebolt, put an end to this repulsive system the moment he took office. The Dementors were stripped of their duties at Azkaban. The responsibility of guarding the prison was handed over to Aurors. What happened to the Dementors? Since they couldn't be killed, they couldn't be eradicated, but they could be starved. Once driven from Azkaban, the free buffet they were offered ended, leading to a massive decline in their numbers. They cannot reproduce without despair, and without feeding, they lose their strength, fading and shrinking into the mist. They still exist in the dark, forgotten corners of the world, but they are no longer an army. The wizarding world paid a heavy price for feeding humans to monsters. Dementors were far more than mere monsters. They were our worst memories, our deepest depressions, and the very embodiment of that helplessness we fear will never end. J.K. Rowling was inspired by her own struggles with severe depression when she created them, and she presented them with such perfect darkness that we felt that cold even while reading or watching. That is all for tonight. The history of darkness is not always written with wands. Sometimes that darkness is born from the pain within ourselves. Now, if you have managed to shake off that icy feeling, eat a piece of chocolate and draw close to the fire. Do you think Dementors were the most terrifying creatures in the wizarding world? I await your freezing thoughts in the comments. Even in your darkest moments, never let go of your wand or your hope. Safe travels!